Hello and welcome to Steve's Backyard Bonsai. I know it's been a little while, but my wife and I took a trip to the West Coast, to Northern California, where my son and his family live. One of my grandson's 7th birthday. We celebrated that, and then we went up to Sonoma and celebrated my nephew's wedding. This is a Ginkgo Biloba vigorous Select, which I bought because it had small leaves. It purported to have small leaves, which it does. What I didn't realize when I bought it was that it was grafted. And as you can see, the rootstock is plenty healthy, and it's taking away from this poor little grafted vigorous Select. What I want to do today is get rid of as much of this rootstock as possible, and it's something I'm going to have to maintain forever. When I repot this, I'll see what I can do about extricating it somewhat more, but today I want to concentrate on also refining the graft. I'll zoom in on it and you'll see what I mean. The graft looks pretty terrible from all angles, in my humble opinion. Here, I want to carve this down a little bit because from this view you can see that it's just started. It was a wider rootstock, so the taper isn't there. So I'm going to carve this down and then see what I can do about this little ugly section. I imagine it will heal over at some point, but I want to make it easier for that to happen. And here, I mean, it's even coming away at the top a little bit. So this has a lot of refinement to do, and I'll get started on that as soon as I cut away as much of this rootstock as possible. Just trying to clear out a little bit. Yeah, I can get a nice bite out of this. Yeah, I got this tree last year, in the beginning of the season, and decided not to do anything to it. I've mentioned before that I had kind of wanted to do a ginkgo, so I planted a bunch from seed. I have quite a few of them. I'll show them to you. But they all had large leaves, and I was going to abandon the bonsai effort. Then I saw this one, and I just decided to take a chance. It's one of those things, you probably paid too much for it, but you didn't care because, it's bonsai and this is your hobby. And I'm sure a lot of you fall into that category. So let me get started on removing that growth, and we'll look at this tree and kind of pretty up the graft a little bit. All right, I have an X-Acto blade here. I'm just going to slowly carve this. I'll get into the living tissue of both the rootstock and the tree. And I don't know how successful I'm going to be. Obviously, the callus portion is much harder. I'm going to use the sharpest part of the blade for that. That's a little better. I think I just better come straight across at the top. I really don't want to nick any of the bark. And then this side. I'm gonna cut that away, it's in the way. Just cut this away, also in the way. I'll do a better job on that in just a minute. I said I was going to do that first, didn't I? This graft has been bothering me since I unpacked it. All right, that's the best I'm going to do, and I'm just going to have to watch it over the years. I could put a sharper blade on this. A newer blade, I mean. All right, let me cut this baby out. I'm going to use my trusty old Corona from the big box store. To cut this out. All right, let me come in with this. And like I said, I'm going to have to watch this for a very long time. I think it will continue to send up competing branches and trunks. Maybe one day if this tree gets big, I'll do an air layer. It's not in bonsai soil. It's just in the pot that I put it in. It came bare rooted. Did it? No, it came in a smaller pot. All right, that's looking a little better already. Let me think about pruning this tree. What would I like to do? Before I get on to pruning that small leaf ginkgo, I wanted to show you the ginkgos that I have that I grew from seed. Here's one of my ginkgos planted in the ground, and I have another one planted in the ground over here. Both have pretty skinny trunks. I expected these to really take off. Over here on the other side of the yard, these get watered every morning at like 4 a.m. or 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 that were planted at the same time, have much thicker bases for the most part. And I was going to abandon these because I didn't know what to do with the leaves, but I've been steadying up. And a few weeks ago you saw me chop one. I'll show you how that's doing. Okay, this one was chopped and repotted. I keep it in direct sun. It doesn't appear to be having a problem with that. It gets some afternoon shade, but pretty much direct sun most of the day. The morning it's shaded out a bit. And it's doing very well for recovery. It's not putting out any new leaves, but it's not looking terrible either. And I'm fertilizing it. You might remember Central Park. I've got to prune up some very wild growth there as well. Well, I've got a lot of projects I've got to get started on, but I digress. So this wants to be an upright tree. So I'm going to elevate one side a bit. And so this tree would be displayed more like that. All right, let me take a good look at it. This branch comes out very radially, so right away I like it. This one, the radial direction for this branch would be this way. This one cocks over a bit, so I think I'm going to take that branch off to start. Like that. Now I've got to make some decisions here. Which one of these branches makes a better apex? These two are parallel, so I don't want that. And these two are parallel. I don't want that. But what happens if I take those two branches off? I guess that depends on what I've called the front of this tree. All right, I think I want to decide that this central leader is not the leader. So now I want to think about some things. This branch comes up. It's very straight, but it has two side branches. I want to let them grow. They're opposite one another, but I'm going to take them down to 2 leaves each and remove the top 2 on this one. This is actually 3 leaves now. This big one I'm going to take off. This one has already gone beyond its primary branches, or primary leaves, and it's sending out more of a branch. So I'm going to take this leaf off. That leaf off. And the 2 other leaves, leaving the leader, which has 2 1/3 leaf on it. I don't mean 2 1/3, I mean 2 leaves and 1/3 leaf. I might take that big one off. Really reducing it down and moving the energy toward the tip of that branch, let it extend more. And the top part of this is dead, so let me remove that. Okay, so that has simplified this branch somewhat. The fact that there are 2 branches down low might help to thicken it. Just want to reduce the end. Removing this leaf that goes up. And these 2 leaves. And we'll see what happens here. I would like it to bifurcate at the end, but I'm not exactly sure how to get that. I might get it from where I trimmed it. All right, so I had said that that branch is parallel with this one. Is that okay? So that depends on where the front of this tree is. If I keep this branch and this branch, this one I can train to go over and up. This one can go up. So I'm going to cut this one here and let it migrate up. This branch, do I want it? I'm going to leave that because I've made the decision to get rid of this branch right here. Like this. And I'm going to choose I want to choose a front. This one, you've got those parallel branches there. But in this view, all right, I'm taking this branch down to here. I'm really removing a lot of this tree. And I'm going to remove this branch to here. Okay, it's a much different tree now. I'm going to let it grow and we'll choose a front later. Okay, that's it for my Ginkgo Biloba Fockerts Select. Let's see what this tree gives me. The graft looks a little better. Let's see what happens there as well. Okay, back to what I think might be a good front. And we'll put this back on the bench. Well, I hope my little small-leafed ginkgo survives its little haircut and grows in beautifully. Thank you for keeping me company in my backyard.